in your role as a deputy press secretary and spokesman for President Biden, what was your main portfolio of issues that you covered in the White House?
It was diverse. It could vary based on what was salient in the news, but I handled press about our efforts to pass major legislation, especially the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. I was involved in budget debates. I was the press office's point person for judicial nominations. Eventually, most political matters the White House was in a position to speak about within the rules. And often in the areas where the president was being personally attacked.
So would this include crisis communications sort of thing?
Yes.
And when dealing with crisis communications, who would you usually work with?
That could vary a lot. It depended on the subject.
Did you work with Ian Sams?
Yes.
What was the nature of your work with Ian Sams?
There were stories that would overlap between the areas to which we'd been assigned. So it would have to do with oversight investigations. It would have to do with, I think, mainly things that stem from that. Oh, and things that had to do with DOJ.
We kind of briefly touched on this earlier as well. Did you have access to the White House residence?
No.
Did you ever go to the White House residence?
Not beyond the first floor, or I don't know if it's technically the first floor, but the floor where the East Room is.
Was there any, did you notice people that had residence access? Did they have a special demarcation on their badge or anything like that?
That I don't know.
Do you know if anyone else had White House residence access?
I don't know who had it.
Are you aware of who most frequently visited the White House residence?
No.
And the time that you visited the residence, first floor, or whatever, by the East Room, what was the purposes usually for your visits?
There could be many purposes. If there were press events happening there, because those are often venues for public events, or if we were hosting a certain constituency, there'd be parties there, holiday parties, other receptions, so it could vary.
And then during your time in the Biden administration, how often would the press team have meetings generally?
Very often.
Daily?
Yes.
And how often would the press team broadly meet with senior White House staff?
What do you mean by broadly?
There's probably different variations of if just you and Miss Saki or Miss Jean-Pierre would go and meet with senior staff versus if a larger coalition of the press team would go meet with senior staff. So just starting from like a 30,000 foot view, how often would the press team be interacting with the senior advisors of the White House, senior staff?
The way that it worked, which to my understanding is consistent with every administration, is that various spokespeople had their particular assignments, and it is very normal for them to interact with senior staff about those assignments. In my experience, it's very rare to have some kind of a full press team meeting with one of those people, but for individuals working on issues that those senior people also have a role in, that is very common.
So you would presumably some type of issue that you covered, you would go meet with certain senior advisors, senior staff, based off issues you covered.
Yes.
And how can you tell us broadly how the press team operated, in the sense that you understood the president's positions on different issues you covered?
Well, the people who took point on certain subjects would become well-versed quickly, because you would work on rollouts of proposals, you would work on defending our positions against criticism or figuring out ways to advance the case for them. So they would be learning about those constantly.
And granted, in politics, positioning and messaging can change sometimes depending on what's going on. How would you learn about what the particular position of the White House is on something?
That could take different forms. You could be told by different senior staff. It could be that you're emailed about something that is coming down the pike.
And would issues, rephrase, if you were getting a new position, would you hear from Bruce Reed about what the president's position is on that matter?
It could be. It would just depend.
And same goes for Mike Donnellan.
Well, Mike's role had more to do with overall messaging, and I don't remember talking with him about policy specifics a great deal when it came to learning new positions. I would talk with him about positions, but I don't think he was often someone I talked to about new ones.
Did President Biden tell the press team what his positions were in any instance?
Yes.
How often did he do that?
He discussed his positions when he came back to the press office.
Thank you.